We talked about Bradley Beal being moved to Phoenix and Chris Paul being moved to Washington. Well, Chris Paul is on a flight once again, this time going from Washington to California. Part of the Golden State Warriors has been traded for Jordan Poole, a 2030 first-round pick, and a 27 second-round pick for Chris Paul. I don't understand what direction Golden State is trying to go with this move. What makes Chris Paul so valuable and what makes Chris Paul's legacy and something that should be talked about when he is discussed is that he is one of the greatest leaders in the locker room and on the end of the floor, like in the game of all time. And he also is one of the purely most valuable players based on if you add him to your roster, he will immediately make a direct impact and change based on his play and who he is. And that has been true when the team is young guys. They need a direct floor general, no real guidance or leader, and they need someone to control the aspects, much like LeBron, but at a much smaller degree. Golden State's core is 3 veterans led by Steph Curry, who also neither one of these guys are able to play a 2 guard. They are both ones. You are going to assume they're going to bench Chris Paul and be the 6th man. So right now, if that were to happen, this is the Warriors depth chart. So the starters will be Steph, Clay, Wiggins. Let's assume right now Draymond is going to still be there. So say Draymond and Kevon Looney. Chris Paul, Gary Payton, Moses Moody. That'd be your 8-man rotation. None of those guys need Chris Paul. He's overqualified for this position. I mean, you bring in Chris Paul, like I said, to lead younger guys and be, when the starters are out, someone, or actually he'd be a starter. When you have guys in who are young, don't know what you're doing, he's out there leading everyone. But now he's at that position in Golden State where when the starters are out, you need someone out there to lead the troops, kind of like what the Lakers wanted or tried to do with Westbrook. And that's just not who Chris Paul is. That's never been what he's about. That's just such a smaller role and not what he has been about. But he claims he's there to help Golden State win. You certainly can't get worse by adding Chris Paul, but I just don't overall, Steve, understand why they did this trade, and I don't understand why they would say Jordan Poole is here for the future, give him that extension, and then 3 days later trade him away for Chris Paul. It just makes no sense to me.
Jordan Poole, ever since that Draymond punch, there has been an internal conflict within the Warriors amongst all of the swirling rumors about what the Warriors were going to do about their re-signing Chris Paul, re-signing Klay Thompson, re-signing Draymond Green, Jordan Poole, they said he's here for the future. Steph Curry came out and said, in a little interview, they said, what do you think about the future of the Warriors? And he pointed to Jordan Poole's locker and said, that dude right there is the future. And then all of a sudden, Jordan Poole gets traded. And it makes you wonder if there wasn't more than to the whole situation than what we originally thought. Because I can't see how a team would see more value in Chris Paul than they would in a guy who they just signed to like a 4-year, $130 some million contract extension. So, that right there. And then, it came out that right after the trade was announced, Jordan Poole unfollowed Draymond Green on Instagram. So all of these pictures, pieces to the puzzle kind of paint this odd picture in Golden State that just kind of makes Jordan Poole look like the redheaded stepchild that was there. And they just kind of didn't want to deal with him. They saw, people in the building saw more value in Draymond Green than they did Jordan Poole. And they kind of banished Jordan Poole to the Wizards. This whole situation just seems weird to me. And it just comes down to, I'd like answers on why. Why did the Warriors do this? Why did you trade away a guy who you just signed a massive contract? And don't give me, oh, we were trying to save future money. I don't want to hear that. Why did you trade Jordan Poole? What happened? Because something must have happened. There's no reason you make this trade for Chris Paul.
I just kind of had this little revelation while you were talking. So first of all, I think a lot of this obviously stems from the punch that happened in last offseason. I think Draymond Green came into the front office and said, listen, him or me. Had issues with Durant, had issues with Kerr, and they very much value Draymond Green. And I've said before that Draymond Green has a unique value that is only valuable to Golden State. I also read this that came out 6 hours ago. Draymond Green said, quote, I don't like CP at all. We don't have a good relationship at all, but I respect his hustle and I respect his IQ. He's smart as hell. CP saw stuff coming up. Draymond don't like Jordan Poole. Obviously caused a lot of issues. Jordan Poole's gone. Draymond and Kevin Durant, a lot of different issues. Now Durant made that choice to leave by himself, but there was a lot of talk about Draymond being a big part of why he left. Now you're gonna bring Chris Paul in, who's got issues with Steph, had his issues with Draymond. As I mentioned earlier, Chris Paul is a very vocal leader, likes to be the guy in the room. No one likes that more than Draymond. I think Draymond is going to walk around Golden State with a big head and the chip on his shoulder of like, look at all these things I did. Look at who they respect more. I'm really about this. Chris Paul is going to come in. And I think a large part of Golden State's success over the past few years has been their family, the ball movement, the chemistry. They all get along. I think this season, with how the last year and a half has gone, I think there's going to be an issue between Draymond, Steph, Chris Paul, and the front office before the start of this coming season.
Yo, Adrian.
I think someone between the four of them are going to have issues and something else is going to happen. I also didn't believe that this would be Chris Paul's final stop. I thought they were going to get Chris Paul to trade him again, but it seems that Chris Paul said he's there to help the Warriors win, and the Warriors have said that Chris Paul is there to stay and they want to keep him.
It doesn't make sense to trade Jordan Poole.
No.
I don't get it. Internal issue. There had to be.
I just don't get it. So I think to wrap up this segment, I just have 3 words written and circled on my notes next to the depth chart that just says, where's the fit? That sums it up, I think.
I agree with you.
That's Chris Paul to the Warriors and Jordan Poole to the Wizards, as well as 2 picks.
Listen to the sound. I listen to the sound.